Hi. In this video, we'll be continuing with the C# video tutorials. So in this video, we'll be talking about array initialization. So we'll be continuing with arrays. So these are the notes. So just some notes about arrays in C#. So again, arrays in C# are pretty much like arrays in Java. They're arrays in C++ pretty much. Any object-oriented language is pretty much the same thing. So when you create an array, you optionally initialize it with a group of values. So there's another way to initialize an array. So we could say so there's two ways to do this, and the first way, I don't think you can do this in Java. Actually, maybe, but both ways are pretty similar. So let's just go under here. Actually, let's take this from last time. So if you're interested in the notes, just start from the beginning of the C# playlist on my channel, Code Invest. So we have here, so for example, we could have a const int size points to 5. We can say int array numbers array, or not numbers array, let's just go with array. So int, or like val array. So int array val array points a new int, pass int size. And then here, what you can do is you can open up these brackets, like pretty much curly brackets, and we could just add some values in here, 5 of them. So it only has space for 5 elements, or 5 values. So that's way number 1. There's actually 3 different ways. So you can do this as well. So you can say int array. Let's pretend these are the. Let's just actually let's go with val array 2 points a new int. Then here we could say we just want it to be empty. Then we could actually just say, okay, well then we want to just initialize it to however many values we want here, like this. So then that doesn't have a fixed size in that case. It's pretty much, I think it's called dynamic. Because you can, well, it's not really dynamic because you can't really add elements later. So we'll talk about that later on. But you can't, this has a fixed size. So this is saying, okay, well this array has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 elements. You can't come back and be like, okay, well now I want to add an element to the last index, or we could go, we want to make sure there's, or we want to say there's 8 elements now. You can't do that. Well, there's a way. You have to use a method which basically resizes the array, copies the elements to a new array. So it technically can't be done. So to do that, I think you can use an array list. There's different ways to do it. We'll talk about all that later on, I think. So here we have, that's way number 2. Way number 3 is int array val array 3 points to new. Actually, no, just int array val array 3 points to. Then we could say we want to fill this array with some values like this. This is what I would do if I was going to go with that route. I'd go with this. This is the easiest way here. Sometimes I do that, not really. Most of the time I'll go with something like this and this. That's pretty much my favorite way to do it, because that way I can access the indexes like that. So I just use that. You can also use loops and stuff to initialize elements. You can use a random number generator to generate the values. You can use a formula. You can use something special to do it. Okay, so you can use a loop to step through an array. So let's talk about that. So we could have let's have a new example here. Actually, we can do it in the code area, so we'll just take this stuff out. Take this stuff out too. Take this, we'll just leave that like that. Okay, so what we can do here is we could say, well, we have a CO and we want a constant CONST. That keyword's in MQ052, it's in C++, I believe. So CONST, these are exactly the same thing, same language completely. So it's a good keyword to know. So CONST int size points to, for example, 4. Oh yeah, I forgot about private. So then int, for example, int array, we could have vals points to new. Actually, let's go with int vals. Private again, my bad. So private int vals points to, no, just private int vals actually, then in the constructor we'll initialize the array. So then here we'll say vals points to new int passing in size. So it's going to be an array initialized to 4 indexes or 4 elements. Index 0 to n minus 1, which is 0 to 3. The first index is 0, second index is 1, third index is 2, fourth index is 3. So then we can say we want to go, we could have our loop here like I showed in the last video, so we could have for int index points to 0, index is less than size. This is a little different, this time I'm calling the constant. Then we get to index plus plus. We want to open up some square brackets. Then we'll say vals of array index points to 99. So it's going to initialize all the values starting at 0. So the loop's going to start index 0. Index is going to point to 0. It's going to say vals of array index 0 points to 99, or val of array index. Well, in the first iteration it's 0. Then it's going to exit, come back up, check the condition. It's going to increment index by 1. Then it's going to say vals of array index 1 points to 99. Come down to this square bracket, loop back up, check the condition for int. It's going to check if it's still in the range. While index is less than size, index plus plus, so index is now going to be 2. It's going to continue, do it 3 times. 0, 1, 2. It's going to make sure it's less than size. So when index is 3, that's the last iteration. It's going to check vals of array index 3 points to 99. Then once index is 4, because it has to be less than 4, which will be 3. So once it's 4, this loop is false in that case, where then the loop is skipped. It won't iterate anymore. So if you're confused with that, you can set a breakpoint here like that. You can click the debug icon and step through the loop. So we'll probably do that at some point later on. So arrays commonly use int as subscript. You can then create a loop to step through the array, for example. That's the example. Then, so this example assigns 99 to each element as value. You could say 99 plus 1. You could say I plus 1. You could say I times 99 plus 1. Or you could have some kind of formula to initialize the elements. Notice that the number of iterations cannot exceed the array size. Otherwise, an exception will be thrown at runtime. So for int, index points to 0, index is less than or equal to size, index plus plus. If it's less than or equal to, that'll cause an exception because it only has space for 4 elements. So if it was 4, then it would be, if index was 4, then it would be an extra index. So which it can't do that. It won't have memory, that much memory for the array. wouldn't have the allocated memory, that would cause an exception. Okay, so let's go back to something I kind of showed you briefly in the last video. So the length property in C#, all arrays have a length property that is set to the number of elements in the array. So for example, the length for this array is 4 because size points to 4. Because that's what we initialized the array to, so the length would be 4, which would be index 0 to 3. 0, 1, 2, 3, that's 4 indexes. Sorry, let me just change my music here. I'm not sure what's playing here. Can't really even hear it. Once again, if you guys are interested in music, I have a code music playlist on my channel with all kinds of different music. Don't worry, it's not just rap, it's not just EDM. I listen to rock too, so just check it out if you guys want some good music. Trust me, I have good music. Might even have throw some country in there at some point. I'm not that person that just listens to one genre. I actually listen to like all genres of music. I have some good trance songs, which is kind of like, it's basically like, it's called EDM, but EDM's after. That's kind of like the newer generation of what they kind of branched it into. But I have some good music on there if you're interested. Check it out. Okay, so we have so in C#, all arrays have a length property that is set to the number of elements in the array. So as we discussed, the length property of this array would be 4. So we could just have another example here. So let's just pretend we have another example. Let's pretend we have a double array. So double array temps points to new double, passing in, for example, 25 elements. So we could say message box dot show. We could say temps dot length. Okay, so length has a capital L dot toString. So we could show the length of the array in a message box. So we're saying, okay, well, temps are referencing the array. The dot length method, we're taking that to toString. So we're showing that as a string. So that's something you can do. You can turn a number into a string. So let's just note that down. You can turn a number into a string using the toString. Sometimes you may not realize you can do it until you're like, okay, well, I want to do this when you're coding. So you're going to try something. You're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to call the array, call the length method, then I want to join that with the toString method. You're going to try to convert it from a number to a string. Then you'll see, oh, I can do it, or oh, I can't do it. So you'll find out if you can do it or not when you're coding. That's going to happen. So when you'll want to do things and you'll try to think of how you can do it, then you'll just start putting things together like puzzle pieces. You start puzzle piecing things together, then you'll realize something will work and something won't work. Whatever works you'll continue with, so that's pretty much what coding is. Obviously, like, unless you're like a senior coder, senior developer, you won't know everything right off the bat. Like, you'll practice things, you'll have special tricks that you use. You'll realize well, it depends. If you're working with a language for a really long time, then you'll get used to things like that. But if your job requires you to cycle through like 5 different languages, then sometimes you'll just have to try things. Okay, so the length property can be useful when processing the entire array. So you could say for int index points to 0, you could say index is less than, for example, temps.length. Then you could say index plus plus. So that's going to make sure it's going to be in the bounds of the array. Then you could say again message box.show. temps dot length dot toString. So there's something else that they have in C#, which is also in Java. So you could have it's called a for each loop. It's pretty much like a for loop in Python as well. So using the for each loop with arrays, you'll probably get tested on this for some reason. They want us, like I know I did, so that your professor wants to see if you can use both kinds of loops. Because usually you'll just use one. You'll just get used to one. For example, I prefer just using this rather than a for each loop. But sometimes you may need to use a for each loop as well. Actually, we may come back because I don't want the videos being. Oh, actually, we could continue. Okay, so let's just continue for now. So, using the for each loop with arrays, C# provides a special loop called for each to simplify array processing. The for each loop is designed to work a temporary read-only variable known as an iteration variable. So the notation. So let's just talk about the notation. So let's say for each loop. So we're talking about a loop in the arrays section. That's okay. So we have, for example, so it's for each. That's a keyword. Then you have to say, or the notation is type variable name in array name. Then we'll say whatever you want, code in here. It's going to be a little confusing in the notation. So type is the data type of the array variable, name is the name of the temporary iteration variable. You could just say I or whatever. Index. So in is a keyword that must appear. Whoops, did I put that? Yes, so that's a keyword. So there's two keywords here. For each and in. Those are reserved words in C#. So array name is the name of the array to process. So let's do an example of the for each loop. So we have, so for example, we could have int array vals points to 1, 2, 3. So we could say for each int I in vals. For each int I in vals. I think it's a little different than Java. Slightly. Because Java uses like this semicolon thing. I think. I forgot. Instead of in, I think they use this. Kind of like this. I forgot how, I kind of forgot. I don't really use it. I just stick with the standard for loop. It's easier for me to remember because the syntax, for example, in different languages of the for each loop can differ. Whereas I'd rather just use a loop that's in all the languages. C#, C++, C, even Java. I'd rather use one that's the same in all languages. That's what I get used to, using things that are the same. So basically this is just for each I in vals. So sorry, for each int I in vals, which is our array. Maybe we'll call this array vals array. So int array vals array points to 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 indexes here. Index 0, 1, and 2. So this is index 0 to 2, 3 elements. This is index 0 to n minus 1, so n is 3, which would be 0 to 2. So for each int I in vals array, then we want to say messagebox.show we want to show vals array dot toString. And that's pretty much it. So we'll probably just leave it there. Actually, that's starting to get long. about 20 minutes. So that's the for each loop. We'll be doing some more examples, some actual code examples later on in the lab. So in the next video we'll be going over working with files and arrays pretty much. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys like the video, you can like and subscribe to support the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. And in the next video we'll be talking about working with files and arrays. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. Take care.